to the channel. Tonight I'll be going over Hawkeye episode 2. Check this out a couple nights ago, and I watched episode 1 and 2 back to back, and I just finished watching it a second time, and unfortunately this does not look like it's getting any better. So let's just dive right into this. So first off, the episode picks up right where we left off. So Kate and Clint are in the alley. They just evaded the tracksuit mafia, and we're left with the Clint discovering that the person in the Ronin suit is Kate. Is a kid. He calls her a kid. So they take off and they start walking down the street, and they're doing a little bit of like getting to know each other, sort of talking like a little bit, and he asks her where she learns to fight, and I don't like this, that when they have to tell you, when shows or the characters have to tell you they are good, they're badasses because they're martial artists since they were 5, is what she says. It just comes off as like, it's like this quick, everything that she does now, it's all good. Now we know why that Kate can fight, and you don't need to do that. It's just such a weird little check out my stats, check out who I am. It's telling the audience, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do. And I just don't like it. It comes off as just this little sort of flag waving moment where they have to let us know that she's a martial artist since she was 5. And I just got to say, so I have taken martial arts before. I've spent a few years taking martial arts. I learned a lot and I enjoyed. My schedule just wouldn't really permit it after a while because my work schedule got in the way. However, I spent 3 years taking martial arts regularly. It did not. I like I've said before, I have been in street fights before. Martial arts don't make you a street fighter. They're not the same thing. Now, martial art, you absolutely can learn how to defend yourself, and that's what it's for. Self-defense, and a lot of people use it for like meditation and to calm their minds, to focus on something. And it can be a very rewarding thing. And I'm not trying to take anything away. As someone who I respect martial arts, people out there, who take martial arts and everything, but I just don't like that. It's like, hey, I've taken martial arts since I was a kid, so therefore I'm a street fighting badasses. And I'm a street fighting badass that beats up grown ass men twice my size. It's just not believable. It's so lame. I just thought that was such a cheesy ass line, just sort of thrown it in there to let us know that she's tough. And then, she also has to let him know that she was holding her own, and it was just, I don't know. It's just sort of this like chest pounding moment, and it's subtle, but it's annoying. It's very annoying when they do this with characters. She also has to let him know that people call her the world's greatest archer. And I thought his response was a very mature and adult response, because she is young. So let's keep that in mind. I do want to keep that in mind too. I mean, I just think the way Disney's writing her, I don't like it. And her character is not doing anything for me. But she does say that line. Some people say I'm the world's greatest archer. And when he responds and says, is one of those people you? And she says, yes. That was a very mature thing to say. And it's something that I could hear an adult telling a young person like this. So it actually was good. It kind of reined her in a little bit. So I like that. There needs to be a little bit more of that actually. But yeah, so obviously she thinks a lot of herself. And then we see Clint, he's a little unhappy about the situation. Like, they go into this building, and he seems, you can tell after she walks up the stairs, he takes a second, and you can tell he's not happy with where he's at right now. So they get into her apartment, and this is probably the best scene between them two, because they actually have probably the most realistic conversation where they are talking about, he's asking her questions about herself. Now, it's mainly for the audience, but a lot of this was the first time where it didn't feel like that so much. It felt like they were actually two characters getting to know one another, instead of her just spatting off her stats so that the audience would respect her and believe everything that she does. The thing too, though, that always, it's this show, just, it might do one thing right, but then there's like three or four things wrong. Like, and one of the things that they're just killing me with is the writing of her lines, the jokes, the humor. It's just flat and it's cringy. Like her, and she has this thing where her joke delivery is by stammering. So she stammers when she tells, her response, and it's supposed to be funny, and she has this sort of bewildered look on her face when she does it. And it's cringy. And so they start talking about her, where she got the suit and so on. And then the tracksuit mafia shows up, spoils the party. And I will say the other part of this scene that was actually good was she's telling Clint basically where she was. He's asking her questions. Did you talk to anybody? Did you tell anybody about the suit? And she's saying, no, I was here, I was there. And then I came here to drop the dog off. And it actually made sense that the tracksuit mafia, maybe they followed her to this apartment. I mean, it was like, oh my God, it wasn't just luck. It wasn't just they stumbled across her apartment. They actually had a reason to be there. So it actually made sense for the first time. And they start chucking Molotov cocktails through the window. And Clint catches one. And so, like I said, one thing good, another, and then it has to go into something bad, something negative. So they throw a Molotov cocktail and it just happens to land perfectly in Clint's hand. Like they throw a bottle at him and it's on fire and he breaks the window and catches it and throws it back at them. It was, I don't know. Even Clint being an Avenger, he's still human. I don't know, just that it seemed really over the top to show off his skills. And then she fires an arrow over his head or over his shoulder and hits the next bottle out of the guy's hand. Got to show off her skills. And of course she has to be like, I told you so. So this next piece of this scene, it's so bad. The place is now on fire and she looks across the room and there's fire between her and the exit, and Clint and the exit, by the way. And there's a fire extinguisher hanging on the wall. And she magically, we see her, she's holding her bow. She's not holding any arrows in her other hand. She doesn't have a quiver. And she just does a quick and knocks an arrow and fires it like that. And it was so CGI. I mean, it was just bad. It looked so, and it made no sense. I had to rewind it to make sure. I'm like, did she have a quiver on? So she just pulls an arrow out of thin air. And for those, okay, something else too that kind of bothers me. My daughter is a competition. She competes in archery. She travels international. She competes across the nation. She's very good at archery, and I'm very proud of her. So I know a little bit about archery. I mean, my daughter is the pro. She's a coach now. She is very accomplished in her craft, and she's worked hours and hours and years to get good at what she does. When I see stupid shit like this, I in my mind, I always wonder, I wonder what she would say. I wonder what she would think. And I haven't had a chance to talk to her about this. And I don't know if she's seen it yet. I started watching this and I haven't texted her since then or spoke to her on the phone. So I want to find out. I would love to get her thoughts if she's seen this show, because that little thing that happened, even though it was so inconsequential to, like, I guess a normie like myself, but for someone who actually knows a little bit about archery, it just was stupid. It was just very poorly done, poorly execution. It was just, I don't know, just didn't like it. So then, let's see, we see that, okay. So, and again, it's just like one thing after another. And I hate to do this. I feel like I get on here and I feel exasperated because it's like, man, this shit is bad. And I don't know. It's just, and I come on here and I'm just ragging on it. And I don't want to come on here, but there was just so many things about this show. That we see the tracksuit mafia on the street in front of the building, in front of her apartment building. And we see that she lives above some sort of a store or a restaurant or something like that. And the two workers from the store come out and they start hollering at the tracksuit mafia. Okay. And then we see them, Clint and Kate, he asks her, does she have a fire escape? Yes. So they head to the fire escape. That's what we assume. The next scene, we see them walking down the street with the patrons, or I'm sorry, the workers that had come out of the shop, and the tracksuit mafia is right there. How did they not see them? Again, I know it sounds nitpicky, but it's like one. I can excuse some things, but when it's one after the other, boy, it seems so lazy, and I just don't know who was in the editing room allowing this to happen. Who was just saying like, yeah, it's fine, no one's going to notice that they're literally 20 steps away from the tracksuit mafia in plain sight, and the only reason that we would buy that is because the camera is tight on them walking towards the camera, and then they cut out of frame, and it's like, but they're right there, they would have seen them. So just annoying, just lazy ass shit, just can't stand it. So where do we go? So they go get some supplies. Kate, her humor again just doesn't land. They're getting some bandages and things, and she should. No, I will say this: she did have some injuries. After he pulls the hood off and stuff, we actually see her marked up a little bit. She's got like a cut on her head and stuff. So she's not impervious to damage, which I guess that's pretty good. So the next thing that happens, Clint sneaks back into Kate's apartment. So they left the place and they head to, I guess it's her aunt's apartment, and they're going to hold up there. And so he leaves her at the apartment to go back to Kate's apartment to get the Ronin suit. And it was another just ridiculous, unbelievable scene where Clint just walks up to a police line, with the tape, and there's firefighters and police officers everywhere. We see them. And then he just magically crosses the line, works his way to the to a fire truck, opens the door, grabs a hat, grabs a jacket, and just strolls on in, and no one sees him. That shit is so unbelievable. I mean, it just is. It's just so stupid. I feel like they're not even trying to make it believable. They just want you to just watch the show and shut up. And maybe there's people right now who are listening to me and they're saying, hey, normie guy, shut the hell up and just enjoy the show. I'm sorry. These things stick out to me. They just do. I can't help it. And again, I can excuse a lot of stuff, but when it's just bad writing, bad humor, bad script, and the scenes don't make sense, I have to call this shit out. I just have to. So he sneaks in, finds out the suit's not there, and another fortuitous, lucky break. He goes back to the fire truck to drop off the hat, drop off the jacket. He sees a sticker in the window that says, like NYC LARPers or LARPers NYC, something like that. Live action role players. For those who don't know, that's the big clue. That's how he finds out. That's how he gets the suit. He sees a sticker in a fire truck's window. That's how he finds out where the suit is. Unbelievable. So he heads back to the apartment. He talks to Kate a little bit, and then he looks up the NYC LARPer on his phone, on his smartphone. He has his phone out. He looks it up and clicks on a couple of things. Boom. He's on the guy's Instagram page who has the suit. And it's just such a lazy connecting of the dots so that we can move the plot along moment. And also, the other thing too is this guy's posting a video of him wearing the Ronin suit. And then just I don't even know, a few hours before, the Ronin suit was on the news, and the anchor who was delivering the news they knew all about this Ronin. They were connecting dots. They were saying, is he here because of the fire and the explosion at the auction house, and then so-and-so Armand, I don't know what he is. I don't remember the name, don't care. They talk about his death, and is it connected somehow? So you have this infamous suit, and this guy's posting it on a social media page, and no big deal, right? It just, man, lazy ass writing, man, I'm telling you. So let's see. Where did we go next? Oh, so Clint, he says goodbye to the kids. He sends them back to his wife, and he says goodbye to them. He's putting them in the car and stuff. And, he's still in the dad stuff, telling him to watch out for the little brother and stuff. And I thought it was interesting, to say the least, that the oldest son, he tells him he's in charge. And then, so he has three children. He has two boys and a daughter. Um, the boy, one boy is the oldest, one boy is the youngest, the daughter's in the middle, age wise. And he's talking to them three, saying that the older son is in charge. And then when they get out of sight, she starts talking to him, concerned, hey, what's going on? I see a cut on your forehead. And then he has to make sure to let her know and let us know that she is in charge. She has always been in charge, and she will always be in charge. Interesting. It was like this moment of like making sure that she was elevated above them. Um, all right, so let's move along here. So back to, they go back to Auntie's apartment, Kate's aunt, and he tells her to stay, and he's like, stay here. I'm gonna go get this sorted out. And obviously she's not gonna stay. Um, no shock there. And so they start walking, and he agrees and says, okay, let's go. So they're walking, and then there's a scene between them, or an exchange between them, that they talk about his hearing aid again. And so it tells us about his hearing aid. So like I said, obviously this is going to play a factor, because this show doesn't do subtle. Everything is very on the nose. So this was something that they brought up again to make sure that let us know that he has hearing aids. So I'm waiting for that to pay off, because it's coming. Let's see. And then so the conversation that they have regarding Clint, Kate's sort of telling him how his branding is bad. And I think that's I don't know. I don't really like that phrase when people start talking about their brand, because it's funny, because everyone like myself, okay, because I'm not excluded from this conversation, and I'm not looking at everybody else and projecting. Everyone who is a content creator or has any sort of an audience, whether it's one person or 10 people or a million, it doesn't matter. There's this like theme where it's like, oh, you got to build up your brand. I don't know. I just don't like the term, the way it just gets used and thrown around. And so she starts talking about his brand and how his brand is bad, and how she's not really lecturing him, but she's just telling him how he has all these layers between him and the world. And he needs to be more inspirational. That's what his brand should be. And that's what people need. So, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but just that whole branding thing just kind of hits my ear wrong. So now we see Kate. He leaves her. They say goodbye to each other at mom's work. And Eleanor, that's her name, Kate's mom. And he gives her his number. And she puts it in her phone, and she makes some unfunny jokes about it. And so she comes in, and she goes right into her mom's office. And, obviously, and here's another thing that I don't know what is going on with this. This is a very common thing too. What is it where there always has to be the storming in the office and walking by several people, and everyone's like, hey, wait, you can't go in there. That's such a cliche scene. And I've seen that so many times. It's just used up. So of course she can't just walk in, and it doesn't even have to be any confrontation. We could just see her walk into her mother's office. But no, she has to do the whole throw her jacket behind the receptionist desk, and then people are like trying to stop her. It was dumb. So she goes in, and there's this scene between Eleanor, and Jack is in the room as well, and Kate. And Kate's she's kind of not really interrogating him, but she's starting to question him. You can tell she's trying to prod some information out of him. And he says some weird shit, like some stepdad shit. And again, I think this doesn't do his character it doesn't do it any favors. Like when he starts talking like this, almost like it's like a caricature of what a stepdad is, and it just, I don't know. He starts saying shit, and he even says something I learned from a book. It is so stupid. It's just it was such a terrible line. Followed up by Kate's terrible line, because Eleanor says she wants to have Jack's cooking dinner, and she wants her to come. And Kate tells her she will agree to dinner if she can come up with a dinner topic. Really? Who's writing this, man? I mean, who is writing this? Because it's not good. So Clint is now he's at the park where the LARPing, the live action role playing, is going on. So this scene, it was lighthearted, but it didn't really land. It was just sort of that something about this show, the humor just doesn't have it it doesn't flow. It feels like the humor is constantly being forced. I feel like this show and the humor, it's like being around a person who tells you they're funny. And when someone says, just so you know, I'm hilarious, just so you know, I'm the funny guy or I'm the funny girl, they're not funny. If you have to call yourself funny, you're not funny. And this show feels like that to me. It feels like it's trying to tell me how funny it is. And in doing so, it makes it very unfunny. So he goes in and this like LARPer Viking woman, she steps in front of him and she says some weird shit to him. She's like stopping him and she even says like, I know who you are. And there's like no real, like, he's an Avenger. He is a very important person. He was a part of a team that saved the entire universe. His name is etched in the history books permanently. And I'm not saying that everyone has to kiss his ass and everyone needs to just, step out of his way. He's a god. No, he's just a man and he just wants to be a man right now. And this, at least in this show. And she's just kind of disrespectful and she starts saying how most of the LARPers are cops and firefighters, and if there's any problems, then he'll have problems. It just was like, really? He's a superstar, you know? It was really weird. And it was like this moment of like putting Clint into this position where he has to put on the LARPing gear to get in there and talk to the guy and get the suit back from the LARPer. And it's so funny. He walks up and the first person he sees, the guy just happens to be right. There's all these people, like, there's 50, 60 people. And the guy just happens to be right there. Convenience for the show, obviously. But anyways, so, let's see. Okay. So when he joins, there's this scene where he fights his way through, he LARPs his way through to get to the guy with the Ronin suit. It was supposed to be funny. I didn't think it was that funny. And then he gets to the guy who has the suit on. Now, this guy, he is probably the most realistic character that I've seen in the show. He talks like a normal person. He seems like a real human. He doesn't seem like some actor. It's weird because he was the most believable character in this whole show so far that I've seen. And he's kind of funny and he's nice and he recognizes Clint and he challenges him to a duel and he asks Clint for a favor. He says, I'll give you the suit, but let me beat you. You're an Avenger. And, Clint reluctantly agrees, to do the duel. But then we cut back to Eleanor's work where Kate is, and we see Kate holding her phone. Again, there's some more lazy shit going on, surprisingly. She's typing on her phone, and it was so bad because it's so obvious that she's not really typing, and it's like the screen on her phone was like either CGI'd in or maybe it was already pre-programmed to shoot the messages. I don't know how special effects worked in that regard, but she just barely moves her thumbs and it's like, and the words are just flying through and coming out and her thumbs never even cross over. I mean, we've all texted, okay? You've texted, I've texted. We know what it's like, and I get that, I'm older and, I got the fat thumbs and, I'm always screwing up on my texts, but, I have a 17-year-old daughter and when she texts, it's like boom, 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 she's fast. But it was just unrealistic because her thumbs never move across the phone and you could tell she's not typing and it was very obvious. And again, it's just lazy stuff. It's lazy editing like that. It just drives me nuts. But she's texting Clint saying some supposedly funny shit. And then, so while she's texting Clint, the cops call her and it's a detective asking her about her apartment being, catching on fire. She says some more stammering, unfunny humor. And then we cut back to Clint and the LARPer guy, and they do their little duel, and it was kind of funny, I guess. But the scene after when he's giving him the suit, the guy actually, they have like a real human moment, and it was kind of nice. It was like, again, it was it was probably the realest shit that I've seen in this whole show so far, where the guy is telling him like, listen, this was like a great day for me. Thank you. And he tells him, just call me, he calls him Hawkeye, and Clint says, just call me Clint. He's like, I can call you Clint. And he seems very genuine. He's very happy. And to just be talking to this guy, like I said, this guy's an Avenger, he's a superstar. And and he obviously has a lot of respect for him. And it was just it was a nice touching moment. And all of the bad that the show was doing, that was probably one thing where I was like, okay, that was a nice scene. I liked it. And I also think that when shows do something like this, that's good, I'm going to point it out. I'm not here to just point out bad stuff. This show just has a lot of bad. So, but when it does good, I want to point that shit out. I thought it was a touching scene. I liked it. So, Clint talks to his wife on the phone, lets her know he's not coming home. No big surprise there. I can't remember his wife's name. I like her though. She was in a movie that I really liked. One of my favorite movies. It's called Grandma's Boy. She was in that movie. That's where my mind immediately goes to. So I kind of have a soft spot for her. I thought she was great in that movie, and I think she's a good actress too. But we see her on the phone talking to Clint, and she's asking him questions. She's concerned. Not a bad scene. And then so then the next scene is dinner with Jack, Kate, and Eleanor. And this whole scene, to me, the whole thing was very awkward. It's very cringy. When Kate starts asking him questions, it's not subtle, and maybe she's not trying to be subtle, and that's okay, but it doesn't come off as like, it doesn't come off well. It doesn't come off like she's working towards something. It's like the writing of her and the way she handles the conversation, it's just very wooden, and it doesn't feel real. And she's poking and prodding at him, trying to get information. She brings up the about Armand's death and everything, and then she brings up him being the swordsman and how he's a sword collector. And he doesn't even, that's the other thing too, is he doesn't say like, I was this. I used to be a great swordsman. I was in fencing and so many years. That was good. We don't need to hear his resume to know if he's a good swordsman or not. Just show me that he is. And of course, Kate, we have to hear her again spit out her fucking resume. I'm sorry, but it's so annoying. She has to let us know, the audience, that she's a 2-time state champion at fencing. Cool story, bro. Cool. Awesome. I've heard so much about how her resume is just awesome. And it's like, just show me what you can do. Okay. And make it believable. I mean, can the show just do those two things and I would be on board? But at every turning point with her, it's like they have to make sure that she lets us know that she's awesome. And like, by even saying that she says she's the greatest archer in the world. I mean, just a little bit of humility, a little bit of modesty, like something. But it comes off so arrogant and cocky. And it's so when I hear Kate constantly railing about how great she is, that's what it sounds like to me. It's like, can you just have a little bit of humility? Like, there's just nothing there. And it just makes her very unlikable. And, of course, in the way she even talks to her mom, it's just kind of, I don't know. She's not a very likable character to me. She's not winning me over in any way. So she kind of goads Jack into a duel, but Jack is also very good, and we find this out because we see it. Her and him have a little dueling match right there in the apartment, and it wasn't a terrible scene. Like the fencing part, I thought was kind of cool. If you ever watch fencing in real life, that shit happens really fast. Like if you ever watch real competitors, like in the Olympics, you can't even see anything. So it's just like, you just hear the tacking of the swords or whatever they call them. I don't know, I'm assuming they're swords, but everything has like a special name. You just hear a bunch of tacking, and then you see a light go off, and you don't even see the hit. Then they have to slow it down in slow motion. You can see it. So they kind of adhere to that. They have a little duel, and as soon as she makes she touches him, or whatever they call it, he stops. And I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think the choreography was terrible, but I don't know. It was okay. We see that he's obviously letting her win, and she's getting frustrated. And it's funny because she was goading him in to show that he is a great swordsman. And then she gets mad when he doesn't show that he's a great swordsman. And then when he does show that he's a great swordsman, she gets mad again and says, aha, I knew you were lying. So it was this weird little setup that she does where he's letting her win, and then he turns to talk to Eleanor because Eleanor is telling him to cut it out. And as soon as he turns away, then she comes at him and swings. And he, without even really looking, he parries and actually disarms her, flips her sword out of her hand. I guess it was supposed to be kind of cool, but it wasn't that cool. It didn't look that cool, but it was like, okay, obviously we knew, it was very obvious that he knew what he was doing. And then she flips out. She's like, see, I told you he's lying. So it was a very weird setup, and it didn't land at all. And, so she's talking to her mom, and she's telling her mom there's something going on with him. He knows about Armand's death and whatever. And the thing is Eleanor doesn't really seem to be, she doesn't have a lot of emotion. And I don't know if it's because she's not acting well or if it's because she's a bad guy. Okay, she's like the head of the security company that Kate was at for the most of the day, that Clint dropped her off at. So she's in a position of power. You can tell she lives in a multi-million-dollar apartment. She's done well for herself. So she's an accomplished woman. But when we're talking about like the murders and stuff, she just doesn't seem to be phased. So I don't know. Again, I think it's because we're leading down the path where she's going to find out her mom is in on the Armand, on the death of Armand. So we finally get the big, awesome payoff of the butterscotch, the infamous butterscotch that they had to stop. They had to stop Kate while she was sneaking through Armand's apartment when she found his dead body. She stops. She picks up she actually had to pick up the butterscotch, show it to the camera, and say what it is. Sit it back down. That's the type of lazy shit that I'm talking about. It was just, and when they did it in that episode, I was like, well, that's obviously going to pay off at some point, right? And sure enough, she's talking to Jack. She's kind of, giving him a hard time. And Jack's playing it cool. You know that he knows something, but I don't know if he's being led down. I don't know anything about the comics or any of these characters, so I don't know who really is a bad guy or a villain or a supervillain or anything. I don't know. But he seems to be talking like they're setting him up like he is. Maybe he's a red herring and he's not really what Kate thinks he is. But he breaks out the butterscotch and he hands it to her, and the music gets all low, like here it is. Oh my God, there's the butterscotch. And she kind of spooks out and does her big beady eye thing, and then which she does all the time. That's like another move that she does a lot. She does like the big beady eyes. That's like her scene, or that's her face, her go-to face. That and mumbling a lot. So she leaves, storms off, and she does the whole, I gotta go, I'm sorry, and there's nothing wrong, and playing it off like nothing's bothering her. And Jack, obviously, the way he did it, it was like he was showing off that he had it. So then the next scene is Clint getting himself caught by the tracksuit mafia, and he's outside on a sidewalk in front of, I don't know what, just doesn't look like significant or anything. Maybe it was, maybe I just didn't catch it. Maybe it was Kate's apartment. I don't know. But he's pacing back and forth, and he's like, come on guys, let's get this over with. So they show up, and they throw a bag over his head, take him to the warehouse, secret hideout. And, the tracksuit mafia, I think they're trying to play them off as play them up as this, this sort of comic relief, this stumbling sort of the Home Alone bad guys where they're always hurting themselves and, shooting themselves in the foot, that sort of humor. It just isn't landing. I don't know. It's just not that funny. So he's tied up, and, he's asking them, he wants to talk to their boss. He's like, let me talk to the boss. You guys aren't in charge. And they start bickering back and forth. And so Clint, while his hands were behind his back, he cuts himself loose, and he shows them that his hands are loose. And they're asking him about Kate Bishop. Where's Kate Bishop? And he says, I don't know who she is. And then we hear some creaking and crackling above. And then Kate falls through, lands on the floor, but right between Clint and the tracksuit mafia guys. She says an unfunny line and gets herself caught. And then, he tells her, don't speak, don't say anything. And then one of the main guys he walks away and he goes into another room, and there's this music playing and it's kind of loud, and there's a woman standing in there with her back towards him, and it was kind of weird because it's like they I think they were trying to make it ominous. I think they were trying to portray her as this like awesome villain. As a normie, because I don't know who this person is, no clue. Maybe she is this ultimate badass that I'm gonna have my fucking socks blown off because she's just so cool. And maybe there are people out there who, when they saw her, they're like, oh my God, that's so and so. They finally made her a live action hero. Okay, or villain. I don't know. But it was a really cheesy ass opening for her. It really was. She's in a dark room. Well, I'm sorry. It's red. It's all red light. And she's standing in front of a bunch of speakers, and there's this music playing. The music I actually thought was cool. I like the music. It's probably the best part of the scene was the music. And she's rubbing the speaker. You can see the speaker is pulsing and beating with the music, and she rubs it. So I was kind of like, why is she doing that? Is she just a weird, like, what's her thing? She loving speakers? Like, what the hell's going on? And then when the mafia guy walks in, she turns around and she doesn't speak. So ominous. And she just stares at him with like this blank stare, and he says something to her. He's telling her that they have them, and they have Kate and they have Hawkeye or whatever. And she doesn't react. And he actually starts moving his hands and directing, like animating what he's trying to say. So is she deaf? Is that what we're supposed to believe, is that she's a deaf person and that's why she's rubbing speakers and not moving her mouth or expressing her face in any way? I don't know. So maybe she's deaf and she's going to be this really cool villain. I don't know, but I thought it was cheesy as hell. I didn't think it was a good opening at all. And even what she does, she stands there and stares at him while he's trying to explain to her, and then she does this, and that's all she does. That's her opening. And he turns around and walks out, and then she turns around, and the camera's like a really up close shot of her, and she closes her eyes, and then she opens them. Roll credits. I am sure that somebody in the editing room or a director or somebody, they thought this was such a cool ass scene. It was such a badass shot. I'm sure someone thought, oh man, we're going to kill it with this one. People are going to be so excited. Boy, was it dumb. It really was. I thought it was a very lame ass entrance. If she is supposed to be some big, super cool villain, she didn't look cool. She looked pretty stupid. And it sucks because I want this show to be a little bit better than what it is. And it's just not. It's letting me down at every turn. And that was it. That was the end of the episode. And I saw right before I started rolling this video or cutting this video, the next episode's out, episode 3. So Normie wife abandoned me on this one. We watched this second episode, and she actually nodded off a little bit, and she was like, this shit is boring. I'm not watching this. She's like, you're on your own. You got to watch this on your own. So I will be watching this by myself, and I will continue to review this, and hopefully I don't have to come on here every week and just talk about how shit it is. Because if this is supposed to be like top tier Disney TV show land, I know it's not movies, and I can separate the movie quality versus TV quality, but this is a streaming service, so it's not technically the same. It's not on like a cable channel or anything like that, network TV. This is just low tier shit, man. It's bad acting, it's bad writing, terrible dialogue, very unfunny. The characters are wooden. It doesn't feel organic in any way. Well, not true. The LARPing guy, he was the most genuine thing. Clint has a couple of times where he seems a little like Clint, but I don't think they're doing him any justice. And they're introducing Kate Bishop. This is a Kate Bishop show, and she's just not doing anything for me. For this normie, I'm not feeling the show. So, but I will finish it, and I'll continue to do these reviews. So I'm sorry that if you saw this, you saw my video, and you think that I'm being a jerk about this. Look, I can only be honest with you. I'm not going to come on here and inflate it and overlook everything bad. If I did that, this video would be 2 minutes long. And I know this video is long. My videos tend to run long. But I got to break this stuff down. It's what I see. I can't overlook the bad, and there's just a lot of bad to talk about. So if you're liking this show, sorry, and maybe this gets you a little gassed up. Maybe you want to send me an email or something. That's fine. Let me know why this show is good. If you think it's good, I would love to have a conversation with somebody about it. But if you like the video, thank you for taking the time. If you liked it, hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you thought it was worth your time, you think somebody else might like it, go ahead and share it with your friends. And like I said before, email me if you have any questions, concerns, complaints. I will accept all comers. You guys have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Bye.